Good morning, everybody. Great to be here back at the conversation table. I'm Dylan, joined by a few legends with me this morning. I've got Pastor Taylor Forward. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm good, and I'm good, church.
That's the way. Good to see you. And Marika, our kids leader. How are you doing, Marika?
Yes, I'm doing very well, thank you. No,
You are on the conversation table. We've seen her on Kids Rock Live. We've seen her on the live stream. Now you're here at the conversation.
I can hear the comments already, Dylan.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, we do love to tease Marika because she's a bit of a fan favourite on the stream.
Massive fan.
And
good reason.
Absolutely, because she does a great job. We're very proud of her. Hey, today we are kicking off on the live stream our new series, which is called Stop Pretending, Getting Real with Yourself. You hear that, guys? It's time to get real. Yeah. And last week in church, in the physical building, Louisa kicked it off with a great message. And today, what we're going to be doing is a bit of what we're going to be doing over the live stream over the coming weeks is kind of breaking it down in some conversation. We're going to be hearing from people who have great stories, great testimonies of unpacking some of this stuff. And really what our series is about is it's about stopping this kind of idea of having to be a certain something or thinking you have to be a certain way and getting real with actually what you feel, why you feel it, and what you're going to do. So we're talking all about emotional health, spiritual health, because guys, we can't be spiritually healthy unless we're emotionally healthy.
Yes,
and one of the great examples that Louise has been using is the picture of an iceberg. Yeah. And the iceberg is great because we only ever see with an iceberg, well, not that I've seen an iceberg, I'll be honest, but you only ever see the bit that's above the water, and often our lives are the same, where we present the bit above the water to everybody, but there is all this like stuff or crap going on underneath about who we actually are. And so this series is all about us stop pretending, so stop going, this is who we want people to think we are, and actually being real with what we're feeling. So
very good.
It's good. Are you guys excited for this new series we're doing?
Honestly, I am so excited because, I feel like I've been on a bit of a journey with this concept for quite a few years now, but this stuff has just given it language and helped it make more sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm already seeing the fruit in my own life. From, talking about some of this stuff. So I'm pumped.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about you, Marika? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's it's a little bit eye-opening and a little bit like, I don't know, it requires some work.
Right.
But it's good work because it's going to make me a better person and it's going to make me...
That is so true, though.
Yeah.
It's scary, kind of, because it's like... Well, it's the old saying, like, don't show your dirty
laundry. Yeah.
But, like, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. My undies have got so many holes in them. So, but it's so true. And that's, I think, what's exciting about doing this series. And today we're going to try kicking that off by being vulnerable with one another. But we encourage you as well to be vulnerable with those at home. Maybe you've got friends over watching church, or when you're with us together, let's be vulnerable as we do get real with ourselves. And we're going to try and be real with each other this morning as we start to talk about some of this stuff, which is really exciting. But we, as kind of a part of the team here at church and a small group, we've had the advantage of starting to unpack some of these principles. So we're going to kind of talk a bit about how we're feeling about some of that stuff today. So that picture of the iceberg, a great picture for you guys in your lives. I'll start with you, Taylor. Is over the last few weeks, as you've been thinking about these principles and trying to get real with yourself, have you got any thoughts about what is some of the things maybe that are below the surface that you didn't realize about?
Yeah, look, definitely. And in reflecting, thinking about this, I think one of the biggest things that I've often struggled with throughout my whole life is the concept of jealousy. And it's really reared its head in different aspects of my life, whether it's been through friendships and being jealous of, Mariki hanging out with you or not hanging out with me.
Who can blame you? Yeah, sorry.
But even that, like we learned about that the other day. I was talking about like sharing your friends is actually like the best thing that you can do. But so this concept of jealousy has been one that's really sort of coming up for me, and it's not always in a vindictive way of being jealous. Like I don't like you because I'm jealous of something that you have or you do. It's like it's pointing the finger back at me, and it's like I've been on a bit of a journey of trying to find out where that jealousy stems from.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the same recurring theme has been just around choices that I've made. And it's a pretty well-known fact. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to other things. And I love the things that I've said yes to, but I'm jealous because the things that I've said no to, I'm seeing other people do it, and I'm like, why can't I have that? So I've found it, like you said, Marika, like super challenging, and almost a little bit scary. And I feel like the word when you admit that you're jealous, it feels like it has a really negative connotation. Yeah. And maybe that's why I've never talked about it before. Anyway.
Well, it's interesting because I know, like, as we think about like getting real with yourself and what you're feeling, a lot of the time, you know, sometimes it's that we don't want to admit the emotions that we feel, but sometimes we're completely oblivious to it, which I find really interesting. So for me, I've definitely found that the iceberg for me is that under the surface, like, even though I never want to present that to people, is like I do really struggle with anger sometimes. Like sometimes I get furious about stupid things, get a bit of road rage, stuff like that. But what I love about it is I actually now have an opportunity to not just go, oh, well, I'm angry because or Taylor, you did that to me, or Marika, you said that to me. Yeah. I actually have an opportunity now to actually stop, and this is what I'm trying to do, is stop and go, well, actually, why do I feel this way? Yeah. But then, you know, sometimes you can figure that out, but then the real challenge is to go, well, actually, now what do I do with it as well? Which that's the hard part. Because it's very easy to go, I'm very angry because I have problems with the way people treated me as a child. Like, it's easy to, in a way, to say that, but then to go to that next level is hard. Right. What about for you, Marika? What do you feel have you noticed anything about what might be in the iceberg part under the water for you?
I think for me, definitely would be just insecurities in general, whether that's like, you know, how I look or like, you know, my personality, like, you know, why would anyone like me? I'm not the most interesting person. You know, these thoughts come into my head and it's like, they're just insecurities, but it's like, now it's like when it comes into my head, I'm trying to think of, well, why am I thinking that? Like, where is that coming from? And even like that, it affects my decision making. Like, I struggle to make decisions because I'm just so insecure of like, oh, what if something bad happens? What if that's not the best decision? What if someone makes fun of me because I do that? I don't know, like, you know, things like that, just these insecurities, and just trying to, like, I'm trying to think through why, like, where they come from, and how, I don't know.
It's great. Well, that's perfect, because something that we've been talking about a lot, and Louisa was mentioning it the other day, is, you know, we're coming out of coronavirus, which has been an interesting time. Very. I think probably a lot of people at home can maybe have felt the same way as us, which is like, you don't necessarily want life to be the same. Do you know what I mean? I know I was like, I don't want to be as busy as I was. I want to feel like that. And something we've been talking about is that we want to live life to the full. Yeah. And that doesn't mean like a full life.
Yes.
But like, we want to live life to the full, but we don't get that unless we actually go deep into all the stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, we have to expose that stuff underneath if we want to live life to the full. For sure. So it's great that I think that we have that opportunity, which is exciting. So one of the things that we've been talking about is in regards to having an unhealthy emotional life or spiritual life, is that there are these 10 symptoms, and the guys are going to put it up in the chat. And these 10 symptoms, these are ways to know if you're kind of emotionally unhealthy, is the best way to put it. And they are, number 1, using God to run from God. Number 2, ignoring the emotions of anger, sadness, and fear. Yeah. It's kind of like you just all a checklist, isn't it? It's like all of them. Dying to the wrong things, denying the past impact on the present, dividing our lives into sacred and secular, doing for God instead of being with God, spiritualizing away conflict, and that one is where we go like, oh no, I'm being godly if I don't talk to this person about that. Covering over brokenness, weakness, and failure, living without limits, judging other people's spirituality. So they're big things. Yeah. And we've been talking about these over the last couple of weeks. And Taylor, you and I shared a little bit last Sunday. But for you guys, is there, like we said, it's kind of a checklist. But Taylor, if you had to pick one of those symptoms maybe that you've could talk about today that you've noticed in your own life. Yeah. Unless you're completely emotionally healthy and there's
none of them.
Good vulnerability.
Definitely, there's so many of them in different seasons of my life I think have been like more of a problem than others, and then I've worked on some of them, but I've got a long way to go. One that jumps out that I didn't share on Sunday is the one about denying past hurts and the way that they affect my current state of Taylor. Yeah. And a big part of that is even just working out my family heritage.
Mm.
And I had an absolutely amazing conversation with my parents only a couple of weeks ago when they were over for dinner. And I just said, hey, Mum, Dad, tell me about what life was like when you were younger. Because I actually don't really know. And it like pains me to even think about that. I don't really understand my parents. I can't understand my parents fully if I don't know where they come from. And when I heard some of the struggles and the wins that they've had, I'm like, wow, that actually has I could join the dots of that happened to you or that was said to you, and I'm affected by that now as a 31-year-old.
Wow.
Like even talking to my dad around like birthdays and Christmases and gifts and stuff, and how that wasn't really a thing. Like. And you kind of missed out on that. And I freaking love presents. Me too. but like, I almost, I feel not loved if I don't get any. And so I'm like linking these things together. I'm like, oh, it's not just like, it is me, but it's me because of a reason.
Yeah.
And being able to link them past hurts and then past things in my own life and within the heritage of my family's life, I'm understanding my bottom part of my iceberg a little bit more. And I mean, Mum, Dad, if you're watching, I'd love to have another chat about, some of them things, because I think it's just invaluable to learn about myself, but also now being a dad, like I'm doing that for my kids.
Yeah.
And so I want to get that right. But that one's a big one.
Yeah.
Thinking back of past hurts with myself and within my family and how they're affecting me like today, now as I sit here.
Yeah, that's great. So coming out of that, so that's amazing. And to, like you said, understanding our family of origin and our parents, and like there are so many great things we pick up from family, but they're also like we were talking the other day, it's a bit like you kind of stand on the shoulders of your parents. Do you know what I mean? Totally. So like everyone's doing a bit better each generation. It's just kind of how it works. Yeah. But have you kind of already gone, oh, actually that's a decision I want to make now that I have started to notice some of these things?
I think so, yeah. And I know you always hear people saying like, oh, you're so much like your dad or you're so much like your mum.
Which is sometimes great or scary. Sorry, Dad, if you're watching. I
always get referred to as so much like my mum. It's like, oh, great, I'm like however old my mum is, 35, woman.
Yeah.
I definitely hear myself acting out or talking like my parents sometimes, and I probably haven't arrived at
no, but that's a part of the process, isn't it?
I'm hearing it, and I'm like, I'll pick that up.
You're getting where it's coming from.
Yeah,
now.
that's right. Yeah, so
which is great.
I've still got a long way to go, and it's hard because like I am a result of my parents, and like you said, there's so many great things that I've got from them. So like it's kind of like weeding between them and trying to find what's what you've picked up, what you want to grow in still. I find almost overwhelming but still exciting at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about for you, Marika? Is there a symptom that you most identify with?
Look, it's like all of them are like a little stab to the heart. It's not good. But I think the one that definitely sticks out the most to me is the doing over being with God.
Yeah.
And I come from a family of, it's very, you work hard, workaholics, very much do.
Yeah.
And I can probably get a bit like that. Not I don't know. Like I love a good list.
Yeah.
I love a good list, and I like to check things off my list.
Yeah.
And sometimes, actually most of the time, that can probably go above being with Jesus.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Well, that's great. Well, I think like for me, that's a big one as well. And that's, I guess that's something that we hope from this series and the conversations and things that we're sharing is that people would find some new rhythms to be able to spend more time just being with God.
And I think that's the biggest gift that we've got from coronavirus.
Yeah.
Like, and I know everyone keeps throwing the word around. It really has been like a reset. Like it helps you bring into perspective the different ways in which you were doing instead of being with God. Because, I mean, I said it on Sunday, it's so easy. We're all at church now. Yeah. It is so easy for us, even in church, doing God's work, not to even think about God.
Yeah.
And even like things like, I guess, doing devotionals or Bible reading or praying, those things, they can just become, I've checked that off the list.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I can see that I do that. Like not all the time, but I do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to do that, but it just becomes almost like a productivity sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Productivity.
Or something like it's. I think sometimes for me it can become to get from A to Z.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I've got to do these things.
Now I've done it.
It's important.
Yeah, so you're like, I want to do it. Like when you go, I should go for a run, or I should go do this thing. But at the same time, like I once heard it said that when in God inviting us to obey Him, He invites us to enjoy Him. Do you know what I mean?
That's
So
cool.
do you know what I mean? He wants us to. And I've known God for a while, but like I want to,
Enjoy
like
him.
you said, I want to be with Him, not just do things for Him.
Totally. You're not alone, Marika.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, a really big one is the dividing my life between sacred and secular.
Wow.
So sacred and secular meaning that often I think in my mind I can be like, kind of what you're saying, because that's a big area that I struggle with as well, the doing, is that like this is God time
Right.
and then this is this time.
Sure.
But like I'm really starting to learn about the fact that like God wants me to enjoy Him in the ordinary things. Like there shouldn't be, and this is something that's been really great that we've been unpacking, is that God time doesn't have to just be in a box. Like, all right, I read my Bible in the morning and then that's God time, and then I spend the rest of the day not thinking about Him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like and so for me, I'm really challenged to go, I want to go deeper with that and think about it, and also sometimes challenge myself to go like, I really, like God is so important in my life, but sometimes why do I not value that time? Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes it could just be a simple like, hey God, what's going on kind of thing. That doesn't take much time, but I need to challenge some of those unhealthy rhythms. And one of the other things is, living without limits, which I think sometimes has a bit to do with that as well, which is cool.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I've really, you've sparked it off in my head. I think one of the other things I've really struggled with in times is judging people's spirituality. It's the last one.
Yeah.
But it comes out of that mindset that you're talking about. Like, I think, and use eyes, like there are tick boxes, like, you read your Bible, you do this, you do that.
Yeah.
And then you're being good. But if you're not doing that, you're not being good. But that's absolute bull crap.
Yeah.
Because you going for a run or going for a walk or I don't know, whatever it is that we enjoy.
Doing the gardening.
Could be good, doing gardening, building something. Could be just as spiritual and just as impactful on their spirituality as reading their Bible. Now, obviously, the Bible is like...
It's good stuff.
It's a cornerstone. But it's not it.
Yeah.
It's not all that... It's not...
Yeah.
It
Speaks to you different ways than the Bible.
Well, and something I was thinking about is like God created the world.
Yeah.
He didn't just create the world for us to tick a thing.
Yeah, true.
Like He created the world and said it is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
right.
not like don't enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's so good.
But like, because even this week in unpacking some of the stuff, we were talking a bit about the Sabbath, which the idea is of taking 24 hours to rest with God, do things that delight you. But one of the
that
things,
fill you up.
but one of the things I loved about it wasn't just a question of like what is relaxing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was actually about what points you towards God,
Right. Yeah.
what brings you close to God. And like you said, like for many people, gardening or reading a good book or,
Whatever it might be.
cycling 200 kilometres, that's,
Not me.
that can be that thing, which is really cool.
I mean, that's why God gives us, I think, things that we do enjoy. We don't all enjoy the same things. Like, that's from God.
Yeah.
And so why could that not be? Why could me being in my shed working on my car not be a spiritual act? And for me, that's that last thing is that it comes under that judgmental thing because, it hasn't been like that. But that's a holy cow that I think like these conversations are just helping us really rethink.
Oh, I think absolutely. So another thing, so I was reading this week from Psalms, and the psalmist, whoever wrote it, probably David, he loves the Psalms.
Absolutely.
The psalm is search my heart, O God, which I think is such a great part of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like getting real with yourself. We always talk about it's all about you. It's about understanding you, which is really important. So a question for you guys is, what is one revelation you have discovered about yourself as we've been unpacking these principles? Now, you've already been saying some things, but is there, like we've talked about maybe what the iceberg is, but is there just something random, something short, something that you've discovered about yourself that you didn't realise before? Taylor?
There are. And I'm really excited because I think Louise is going to talk about this idea of a Johari window, and so I won't go into that, but one of a Johari window is a window with 4 panes of glass, and one of them is things that you don't know about yourself that other people do. And I hate, and I'm so scared, but I love learning what that is. And so to answer that specifically, I can't actually think of one super prominent thing, but it could be, like you're talking about being jealous, or even just. Or here's a specific one. I think sometimes my tone can come across as like either angry or judgmental, and I don't mean it like that. Yeah. But that's how you see it, and that's how you see it. And so that's a Johari window of mine that I want. I want to know when I'm like that, and I want to know why I'm like that, so that I can improve on that. Because that's not what I'm meaning. But it's what's happening.
And sometimes that's hard though as well, Taylor, isn't it? Because then you start to think about, you go, oh man, well, like, what am I like? Do you know what I mean? And sometimes that's hard. And I guess that's, as we unpack this stuff, is, it's not necessarily easy to stop pretending, like to get real with yourself, because that's a real challenge.
Yeah, that's right. And I just remember when I learned about this idea of you knowing something about me that I don't know. And there's other aspects of the Johari window, but that's the one that I was just like, it just hit me, and I'm like, oh man, I don't like that. Like, and it's not because I want to be in control. It's because I want to be the best version of me. And if I'm doing things that are negative or un-Christ-like, essentially, I want to be aware of that so I can work on it. But if you don't do this deep dive, you would live your life never knowing what them things are.
Yeah. Marika, what's a revelation what's something you've noticed about yourself as we've been unpacking this stuff?
I think, I've noticed that I don't know, like, sorry. I never really thought about my feelings too much. Like, I don't know,
that's
like,
massive.
Yeah.
Even I've been remembering having conversations with my mum when I've been upset or like, I don't know, like crying or like, a stony face, not big grumpy. And just, I remember her asking me, like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling right now? And me going, generally, I don't know what I'm feeling. And I'm like, that's probably not a good thing. I don't know. But so I'm just not probably very in touch with my feelings. And I don't know. And I guess figuring out why that is and now just trying to figure out when I do feel something, like, okay, what is that feeling and why am I feeling it, sort of thing. And not being scared of them either. That God actually speaks to me through my feelings. And
what a great revelation.
Even feeling angry or feeling, upset or things, they're not actually bad feelings. It can be the behaviour that comes out of them that can be bad, but the feeling itself isn't bad. And
great.
I've probably seen them as the feelings themselves were bad. And I'm kind of...
That's so
kind
cool,
of a revelation.
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, like, as kids, we're taught that, aren't we? We're just like, don't be angry.
Like, don't cry.
Don't be scared. Don't be like that. And I'll be honest, even sometimes I'm like that. Like, I'm quite a practical person. I can definitely say to my wife, don't be upset. It's like, that doesn't help. But it's so true. God speaks to us through our feelings. That's him trying to often get our attention. But like you said, it's our actions after that really define us. Cool. That's awesome, Marika.
Thank you, Marika.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So as we kind of move on and we start to wrap up, this has been great. Great to chat to you guys. What is one hope that we have as we try to live life being with God rather than doing for God? What's a hope, and what's a dream as we start to get real with ourselves, as we start to stop pretending? What's a hope, Taylor?
Like, without sounding like the biggest, lamest Christian answer, I just really, 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 really want there to be a noticeable change in my life
Yeah.
where people around me see something different. And I know it's such a classic answer, but I do so mean it. Where someone just could look at me and be like, the way he responded, the way he reacted, like to see Jesus in me. And I know I've lived so much of my life not responding like that because I was emotionally immature.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be a lifelong journey, but I just want to be on that journey of growing to be more Christ-like but I want it to be obvious in my life.
Yeah.
Like
That's awesome.
I
That's
want
cool.
my wife to see it. I want my kids to see it. I want my friends to see like that change in me, even if they're little changes. So I'm actually super excited about that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
That's awesome, Taylor.
Yeah.
What about for you, Marika? What's a hope that you have?
So hope for me is that out of my feeling, whatever I'm feeling at that whatever time, that out of that I would have behavior that is like Christ.
Yeah.
So whether I'm feeling angry or whether I'm feeling sad, because those feelings aren't bad. It's the behavior that can come out of it that can be destructive, and I don't want to have that destructive behavior. I want to have behavior that is like Christ. So just out of those feelings that I'm going to be acting like Jesus.
That's awesome, Marika.
Really
so as we start to wrap up, guys, final question, just a quick one. What is one thing you want to stop pretending?
Oh,
tough one. Taylor, what do you think?
I just want to stop pretending. So one of the things that I'm really challenged by with what we've learned is the idea of stonewalling. So when conflict happens, you just put up this stone wall. And I'm like the king of stonewalling. Ask my wife. And I'm so good at it in a bad way.
Yeah.
And I when we're fighting, I just go quiet and emotionless and just super calm. Daniel reckons I'm like a freak. I'm just super calm. And I want to stop. I want to stop pretending in their moments that I don't have feelings. And I want to listen to them and articulate them and work through them in a healthy way and not just go, whoop, all right, you've got nothing from me now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What about for you, Marika? What's one thing you want to stop pretending?
Going back to like the symptoms at the beginning of how I can tend to do instead of being, I want to stop pretending like I'm being with Jesus when I'm really just doing. So like, with my Bible reading, sometimes it can definitely be a checklist. I'm pretending like I'm being with Jesus, but I'm not really, I'm doing. I'm pretending to myself that I'm being with Jesus. Like it's like trying to fool myself when I know I'm pretending.
That's good.
So for me,
I
just want to be intentional about spending that time with Jesus, and that it doesn't become a task, or like when it starts to become a task, to think, okay, to be aware that it's becoming a task and it's becoming a doing thing, and to think, okay, what do I need to change this so that
awesome.
so that I'm being with Jesus instead of doing.
That's awesome. Thank you, Marika.
Let me know when you work that out.
Yeah, we could all do with a bit of that, I think.
I'll start a blog or something.
I think for me, the one thing I really want to stop pretending is to stop pretending that when I think I'm being supportive, I'm actually being critical. So that's a big one for me. Yeah. And even the other day I was kind of reflecting and really felt like God say to me, like, what would happen if you prayed for people more than you criticized them?
Yeah, well.
And for me, like it's something that can be so easy as a person, is to just be a bit judgmental or just often out of frustration, like then be like, oh, those people, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I know for me, I just like, as I think about becoming, that next stage of life I'm not at yet, like becoming a dad, I don't want to be a dad who's like frustrated or critical or, snapping at my kids or whatever. So I just really want to work on that. So
good on you.
That's awesome. But thank you for chatting with me, guys. It's been awesome. And I really hope that everyone at home has really enjoyed it as well. Yeah. And we really encourage you to take a moment to reflect on some of this stuff. Earlier we were talking about the 10 symptoms of emotional, unhealthiness, and they're going to put those up in the chat for you. So I encourage you to have a think about which of those do you identify with the most, and maybe you're like us, and there's a few of them that you identify with, but which is the number one for you? And I encourage you to think about that. And it's hard. It takes a bit of digging to go there and find those things. But the exciting thing is that over the coming weeks, we're going to have more conversations like this. You can join us here in the building, and we're going to unpack those things and really try and go deeper to stop pretending and get real with ourselves. So thank you, Taylor. Thank you for joining me.
It's fun.
Thank you, Marika. Thank you so much. And we can't wait to see you next time in the building. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.